right now, please let's jam our hands together to come moderate the next panel session. Please, a big round of applause for the radio sensation. Let's jam our hands together for Tammy B.
So the topic for this conversation or the discussion, the music business and entertainment ecosystem, leveraging media for global growth. Over to you, Tammy B.
Hello, hallelujah. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you guys doing? I hope you're having a good time. A big shout out to the last panel. I learned so much. Did you? Did you? First of all, I think we should all focus on money. A lot of us are like, that my guy was like, look, forget all of this stuff. Money is key. We're going to have a great chat today. I'm sure everybody in this house likes music. Who loves music here? Can't really hear you guys. Who loves music here? Who likes Afro beats here? Yeah, it's really Afro beat to the world. And honestly, I think we need to really clap for Afro beats. It's really put Nigeria on the map. Honestly, anywhere you go abroad, you go to the UK, you go to America, and they're playing Nigerian music in the stores like it's a normal thing. I still get excited. Do you get excited when you hear Nigerian music in other places apart from Nigeria? Yeah? You guys have to communicate with me. I know the economy is tough. It's not that tough. All right. I'm going to call one of the panelists on stage. She's here to represent Abuchi Ugu, who is the CEO of Chocolate City Music Group. I hope I don't murder your name. Fingers crossed. If I do, I'm so sorry. She is a seasoned music executive with over 8 years in the Nigerian music industry. She's the head of business and legal affairs at Chocolate City, and she's been instrumental in artist development, content acquisition, and signing talents like CK, Young John, and Black Bones. She's also a staunch advocate for intellectual property rights, and she's played a key role in shaping the Copyright Act in 2022. Can we clap for that? Because that's a big deal. She's also gone ahead to successfully handle several high-profile copyright infringement cases. She has a Master's of Law in Intellectual Property from the University of Manchester, and she continues to drive legal and business excellence in the music industry. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I need you to clap so she'll actually come. Her name is Ifeyinwa Anyadiegwu. Welcome. Please keep clapping till she sits down. You can sit here. Thank you so much, Ifeyinwa, for coming. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about myself as well, because you're probably wondering, why is this lady here talking about all of this stuff? My name is Tammy B. Some people know me as Temilola Balogun. I am a media personality. I've worked in this industry for over 10 years. First at Cool FM, where I did exciting radio programs like creating the first radio wedding ever. We married couples on air, and we did lots of exciting stuff. I've interviewed everybody from Burna Boy to Skills to Davido to Cardi B. I'm currently the assistant. Yeah, clap for me, I've worked. I'm currently the assistant programs director at the Beat 99.9 FM. I'm also the host of the Drive Time show there. And I've also written and produced some of your favorite series. So I created Skinny Girl in Transit, and Clinically Speaking, First Time Mom, and we're working on so many things. So I think I've been really opportune to kind of have I've been a witness and a partner in this industry for these years and blown some of your faves from media. So today we're going to be talking about how you have been able to utilize media to create Afrobeats to the world. You have, in Chocolate City, quite a very interesting lineup of artists. Even if some people have left, you have been instrumental in breaking big artists and artists that have had great success, for example, CK and Young John and Black Bones. First of all, I want to know, you guys are OGs. Chocolate City has been doing this for a very long time, since 2005 actually, right? Yeah, very, very, very long time. We've gone from MI to Femi Kuti to a whole bunch of people. First, I want to know, how do you do this? How do you do this? How are you able to use media, and how has media played a key role in the rise of Afrobeats globally, not just locally, but globally?
Hi. Nice to meet you. I think you were at our Women's
Yes,
Day
I'm
event
always
at the
somewhere.
yes,
I'm
so
always
it's good to like reconnect again.
Yes.
Also, I think we need to talk more about the Cardi interview.
Yes. Oh,
I
okay.
need to know.
Okay.
I've got that out of the way.
Okay.
So your question was how has Chocolate City over the years used PR to sort of expand?
And media in a whole, because obviously we've gone through a revelation. I won't say revolution, but we've gone through like we've moved from radio, which was the first point of contact, and TV, and now we have TikTok. Like I'm about to start doing a TikTok chart on Beat FM because that's where the music is being broken into. So yeah, I want to know what the journey has been like.
So, I mean, just like you said, we've moved from traditional, I don't want to call it a traditional, but we've moved from like even like newspapers, from newspapers to radio to social media. So the journey has been interesting. I think something that's kept us afloat is just understanding that our artists are beyond music. So even based on how people consume music nowadays, it's beyond just the music, so they want to know the brand. So we're very intentional in ensuring that the story that we tell is beyond the music. So Young John, for example, Young John has a lot of success when it comes to his music. He had the #1 streamed album on Spotify last year, like even down to Black, even CK. But we've realized that the PR needs to go, and even like the social media needs to go beyond the music stats. So we put narratives that talk about Young John's background because we realize that fans connect. Yes, they like the songs, but when he's more open about his struggles and just life, there's that a connection. So over the years, we've learned that we need to leverage social media to show that part of the brand that is beyond the music. There's a producer, there's a writer, there's a mommy's boy, there's a daddy's girl. Yeah, just things like that. And then even just since we're talking about PR and even social media, we've also learned that there are certain content that work better on certain platforms. So we do things like that. For example, Twitter is more like written, and so where we have artists express themselves in that manner, write how they feel on Twitter. In terms of Instagram and TikTok, on TikTok rather, they are more like picture based. So we have artists showing off like their funny side, their cute side. Good looks help.
Talking about that, artists, I've also worked with artists as an artist manager. God, what haven't I done? And I'm still not blown. I've worked with artists, and artists are special. I love them. They're very special people. So let's talk about CK. CK had a breakout song. I mean, CK went from shout out to Osage shouting on his podcast, who the hell is CK? To CK actually showing us who the hell he was. And CK is someone that I know personally. I've interviewed a lot of times. He's not a big talker. He's not someone that likes to really talk about what he's going through or express himself. He's just really there to talk about the music. Yes, my single is coming on the 27th. That's it. But you were still able to take that product and make it a big, 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 big hit. Do you guys know the song that I'm talking about? What's the song I'm talking about? There's 5K. Can I start giving people 5K?
Can I answer?
Who knows the answer? Who knows the song we're talking about? Love One TT, exactly. That song became like a massive hit that took him all over the world, touring and all of that. How were you able to use media to break out that song for an artist who's not like Black Bones? Black Bones, you don't have to tell him two things. He's already in a bikini online, like shaking it. He doesn't care. But how were you able to use media to blow that song to become successful as it is now?
Something so funny. So you mentioned Black. Black is actually like that. Yeah. Like it's not a PR stuff. He actually is like that. But going to CK, so I would even take you back.
Okay.
The original record came out with the EP CK the First, and it wasn't even the lead single. There was another single that, people had sort of said, okay, let's go with this. At the time, I think it was more of, will I say CK's vibe? So we put out the EP, and then we just saw organically that from the back end, Love 120 was doing a few things. And we're like, Again, that's the use of data. Like, then social media is not what it is today, but it was still helpful. His A&R at the time was like, look, let's focus on doing some remixes. He orchestrated everything. We put out and also in terms of like data and timing, we put out Love 120 around Val's Day, or like as well. Shortly after, the back end was crazy. Like, we were seeing numbers that I don't think any other, I don't think, I know no other artist had seen at that time, because he was doing million streams like easily. And even in terms of geography, we were seeing people in France making content organically. We were seeing people in America making content. Imagine us in a Nigerian, I don't
bubble.
want to say, thank you.
It's a bubble.
I was going to call it village, but bubble is better. So once we saw that, we were intentional about having a social media strategy. And one thing about music is you can't just put it out there. There's 1,000 million billion music, so we had to be strategic in highlighting the points that were catchy. So I don't want to sing, but the version was quite catchy. Put some budget behind it, get some influencers. TikTok was also extremely instrumental in CK's push of Love 120. TikTok
so
really
you're
was.
trying not to give us the cheat code, but you're going to give us the cheat code. Because they just say we put budget. TikTok. Well, we're going to come to you, but first, we have Christel Kayibi here. Christel is the interim regional manager for Sony Music Entertainment Africa. Welcome to the panel. How are you? Welcome. Sony is, you people, I'm sitting in the middle of very, very rich ladies. You guys must sponsor me. But Christel, we've been talking about media and the role it's played in basically putting Afrobeats on the map. And I know that Sony Music is known for developing global campaigns for artists. I mean, you guys have done really well. I want to know how, on that scale, how you are able to tailor your PR, your communications to position African talent on an international platform.
Firstly, I'll say, please excuse my lateness. It's been a crazy day in the office. I think I also need to give a slight, correction.
Okay.
So my actual official title at Sony is I'm the Director of Repertoire Strategy for Africa. So I actually am in charge of our Africa business and the strategy from like an acquisition side. And because I am a busybody, I am now the interim GM for West Africa. So I run the West African office here. But also as a part of my other role, I also run our operations in Ghana. So it's interesting because you're asking me a very global question, even though I've become a very regional person now. And so I guess from my global perspective is I actually started off in the business in the UK. And actually, interesting enough, before I came to Sony, I started off with Mr. Easy.
Yeah.
So I was actually Mr. Easy's lawyer and strategist. So I think I learned a lot more about global storytelling working with Easy, actually. And so maybe I can grab from that. So I think working with Easy was interesting because it was working with an artist that already had a very big global mindset, who already knew the message that he wanted to tell people about himself. You know, the big message that I got from Easy is, I am more than an artist. You know, and that was his global storytelling thing that he wanted to tell people, right? Like, I make great music, but my bigger story is I'm an entrepreneur and you know, I want to do something bigger than music. And so starting from that kind of what is integral to him, then taught us how to build out that wider storytelling. And then that turned into starting Empower and doing distribution for other artists, and then still feeding back into that storytelling of Easy and that PR of I am more than just an artist. So I think for me, whenever I was working on campaigns, and interesting enough, I was working on campaigns as a lawyer and A&R in the UK, it was kind of feeding into what is the artist's story that they're trying to tell on a global scale that can also resonate with other people. Because easy story of I'm also an entrepreneur can hit many other touch points across the world, right? It can touch the story in America of the American dream and making it, and it can touch the story points of the hustle here, because now we have trenches to triumph. That story resonates in so many different ways. It resonates regionally, but it's still a bigger global story. So I think whenever I'm focusing now with my team is, what is the bigger global message that we're saying? And then how do we then make that regionally? So now that trenches to triumph story is a very regional Nigerian, I guess, stance. But that in America is the American dream.
Yeah.
That in the UK is the immigrant dream. That thing can be localized, but also made into a bigger global story.
So in Nigeria, in terms of this storytelling and the artists that you have signed under you now, I know of a few, but the way things are always changing in this industry. What is the story the story, I guess, is different from artist to artist, but generally, what is a story that sells here? You have mentioned the American dream, the grass to grace. Does that still sell in this region, would you say?
It's interesting as well, because I think people don't really know this fact around me when I'm here, but I'm not Nigerian. I'm Congolese, and so I work in this market very much from an outsider's perspective, always still taking in all this stuff. And so I can't necessarily tell you what I think is a story that's working here, because again, I'm not Nigerian. I can actually just tell you what I think is authentic to this. And I do think the grass to graces is very authentic when we think about the economic conditions, when we think about even just how the creative industry has grown, right? Like I started with Easy in 2017. That is a very different music industry to 2025.
100%, yeah.
So that in itself is also a grass to graces story, even just within the wider media landscape. So that's always going to be a very authentic story. There's always going to be someone out there who's looking at you, who's seeing your story, who's maybe piecing together that actually we have a likeness, a kin of a story, and that's always going to inspire them. But I think also one thing that, as an African, as a Pan-African, is I also believe in a duality of stories, which is why someone like Davido is also very important. His story is, I like to have a good time. I'm a fun-loving person. I make music for people like me that don't necessarily, it's interesting because, sometimes people forget back when, and that's always a very interesting story point for me whenever I see David. But, his story very much is, I'm a fun-loving guy. I have great people around me and I have a great time. And you can hear that in his music. So in that, he's telling another story that has another duality to Africa. Yes, we have the grass to graces, the triumph to, the trenches to triumph, but we also have we just like to have a great time. And I think Africans should be allowed to have that duality in story.
100%. We're not all poor here. There's some very rich people. There's some very rich people here.
Can I answer that as well?
Sorry?
Can I answer that
Yes,
as well?
please.
Just
Go ahead.
Just to add to her point, in Nigeria, the trenches story definitely sells. The fun-loving Jaye, even listen to our music, club hop music still sells. Then also sex sells, like, having even men and women, because I will use Young John for example. When he does his sexy pics, like the comments, I'm just like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
The women, anyways, let's leave that. But yeah, so sex actually does sell. Even some sort of like controversy as well. Somebody that is obviously going against the grain, that narrative always sells. Might not be good because sometimes you might have touched a nerve that is too raw. For example, look at Didi now. Didi is probably the #1 searched guy now, but it's not for the right reason. So controversy sells in addition to sex, trenches to rags to riches, and then also just Jaye as well.
So in terms of the money, let's talk about the money. Africa definitely has the numbers, but when you come down to the, dollars and the nairas of it, they'll tell you that, the streams here don't hold as much like financial power as the streams abroad. So you kind of have to market and push your artists to appeal to those audiences so you can get that money from there. in Chalk City, especially for like artists like CK and the song that we've talked about that blew, how were you able to position your artists globally with the media to be able to break out to that audience?
So I think the first thing we did was we looked at the data, identified, let's say, 4 or 5 regions that were already popping. That helps you even save money because remember, to break abroad, you have to spend some real bucks. So we were intentional about the regions based on what the data. When you enter into the regions, then you also need to look at what resonates with the brand. So, for example, Love Wantinti, luckily was a global song, but you will start your PR with maybe R&B blogs as opposed to hardcore rap blogs because they're not just going to consume it the same way they would consume, or they did consume Love Wantinti. So just being intentional about things like that, looking for brands that resonate with the artist, looking for influencers that resonate with the artist, looking for platforms that are similar to, that resonate with the brand as well. Those are things that we also pushed abroad. Then there's also the longevity part because you don't want to keep spending money. So one thing that we were very intentional was building relationships. I cannot stress the importance of relationships. So when we go there, we talk about CK, but then we also have a larger conversation around the brand and even also Chocolate City, just so that we create that relationship. The essence of that relationship is also for the person to understand the brand that you're selling. Music, like you said, is emotional to an extent. But there's a business part of it. But it is still, based on feeling.
It's still art. It's still, yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, artists are quite specific about their art. So getting a partner that already sees the buy-in helps a lot. When you go there, also just knowing what you want. So there are certain platforms we wanted, certain people that we wanted to also push the brand. All these things helped sort of break it globally as well.
Okay, thank you. We're going to have some time to ask some questions later on. But you know what? We've talked about breaking artists, and you talked about budgets. How much how much do I need to have as a budget to break an artist, both in Nigeria and globally? 100K, 200K, 50K.
So we're looking at each other.
I want to know. Do you guys want to know? Because I want to know. I want to know.
A lot.
Maybe guess.
I need ballpark figure.
I don't think there's a ballpark figure, and I guess for me also because I've come from the UK perspective, so now running the business here and seeing the line items of what you're spending is very interesting. But I would say a very conservative budget is maybe $20,000, and that's a very conservative budget. And interesting because this is one of the conversations I was having with my team members before I got here is I think the problem with this conversation that we have about budgeting is that we have the conversation of what we're spending, but we don't have too much conversations of how we're spending. And to steal a point of one of my team members today is what are the green flags that you see to keep spending? Because it's easy to say spend 20K, but how do you spend that 20K? When? And what are the signs that tell you to keep spending, and what are the signs that tell you, let's just take a little step back and look at the whole thing? Because, as I said, 20,000 might be conservative, but for certain songs that might be fine. For a more viral song that's working, I'm sure for Lahore, for example, that song is not going to need the same push as...
So a song like Lahore would have a smaller budget?
No, it wouldn't. It's not that it will have a smaller budget. What I'm saying is, you may
Guys,
not...
can we have one house? Sorry, there are people making noise at the back.
Yeah. No, it won't have a smaller budget, but what I'm saying is it may not need that front end big push that you might need to. So a song like Lahore might be that actually you wait for the first week or so and then you get your data points to then see where do we now spend. Because certain songs, when it first hits the market, we've got a green sprout, and certain songs, that I'm still working with a seed. And Lahore was a song that actually you could see that was a green sprout, so you kind of just wait a little bit, and then you can then start pinpointing, as she was saying earlier, what are the markets, what are the things that are working? Is it UGC? Is it something on TikTok? Is it something on Instagram? Is it maybe an in-person activation? Those are the things that maybe songs like that, you just kind of wait a little bit, as opposed to certain songs that are seeds that you have to keep watering until you get that green sprout.
So in terms of like media as a whole, where are you spending your money? Are you spending your money mostly on social media? Are you spending it on radio? Are you spending it on TV, on print media, on culture custodian? Where are you spending your money?
So where are we spending this budget? It depends. It depends. It depends. It depends on the song. It depends on the artist. You know, I say the song because there are some songs that you put out that need to be very content driven. More so if it's like a Jaye song, you need to even have a budget for that, because that song you know is going to do well in the club. So you might not spend as much on radio, but your club budget is crazy. Every Friday night you can catch me at Zaza because I'll be pushing my budget. So it really depends on factors like the song, also even like the type of artist. So if the artist is already strong on TikTok, it makes sense to invest, you know, maybe allocate like 40% of the budget, let the 60 go around the other platforms and even other sources, because you would see a returns fastest on TikTok because he already or she already has a large following. So it depends. Like, it's not really one size fits all. It depends on a lot of factors.
What about Sony?
I agree, and I think I'm going to give a bit more of a controversial answer, as I think we are becoming too formulaic with that conversation and that answer. And one thing that I really am trying to empower my team, and especially my marketing team, is I want you to come up with the biggest, the best, the most creative rollout you can. Don't think about a budget. And then once I know where your imagination can take you, once you're listening to the music, like we just had an exercise recently where we have a big rollout for an artist, and this was the first week of me coming in, right? So I haven't even done any like formal meetings with people, but it's just, okay, we need to sit in a room, we need to listen to the album song by song, and I remember putting 3 pieces of paper on the wall, and one of them was key lines. What are the key lines that spoke to you? What are the key, the key singable things, the key memorable lines? Then another one was the key themes. And then another thing was how do the key themes relate to the title of the album? And then for me, I went back and I told my marketing person, look at all these things and come up with the best rollout that you can give me. Let your imagination roam free. Don't think about budgets, don't think about anything. And then my job then is to bring your big creative vision into something that works in my budget. Because I tended to find that I kept seeing, and again, this was even before I took this role, because remember, I still was overseeing the region to some extent, is I kept seeing marketing plans where it was line items of TikTok, this, that. And I was like, but where's the creativity? And I think, especially coming from the UK, where I saw so much creativity and rollouts that had like crazy things. And I remember seeing a Nines rollout once where they actually had somebody create like an alien landing path on a green, on like an acre of land. And for me, I was like, wow. And I think one thing when I came into this market that I saw that was really lacking is creativity, because we're focusing on those line items too much. And I understand it's a formula, it works. But I really want us to move away from that. This is the formula, and actually empower our marketing people to be creative. Because I don't think marketing people are being creatives anymore. They're just being administrators of a budget. Yeah. They're just going and talking to an agency and saying, I've got 5 million for this. What do I spend? No, give me the best budget ever. What would you have done to have made like Lahore look like the best rollout ever? Yeah. That's what I care about now. I don't really care about those line items. I mean, my boss may not be happy, because I must admit, I think I am spending a lot more on my rollouts, and I am putting my neck on the line a lot more. But that's where I want us to go back to. Because if we can do that, then we can show the artists themselves it's not about those line item spending. And too many artists are, and I think for me, it's a bigger crusade of there's too many artists that are not signing in their home countries and signing somewhere else because they're focusing on money. Whereas we're forgetting you have the most creative minds here. So let's empower those creative minds. So I don't care about like where I'm spending. I care about what does this rollout look like.
I think we can all clap for that. Because I think in terms of Afrobeats, there have been a lot of discussions. I think anytime anybody talks about Afrobeats, some people get really like emotional about it. And there's been a lot of conversation about just the general decline of Afrobeats and the quality of music and just everything in general. And you saying, you know, we need creativity is 100% like, I mean, it's the best thing that I've heard. Even from a media perspective as well, I think that some of our programs and some of our music and entertainment blogs also need to find exciting ways of reporting and creating content that also artists can plug back into. And I always tell all record labels this as well. When it came time, sometimes you guys also just bring the music and I'll play the music, that's all. But we can do really exciting things. So for Ashake's Lungu Boy album, I remember I had an idea to do like a radio takeover. So we changed the Beat 99.9 for a whole 24 hours to Lungu Boy FM for the whole day. And we were just playing the music, interacting. We gave up to ₦1 million on air that day. And it was part of a rollout from a radio perspective. And it's creative, it's different. And I think that, yes, the formula is destroying the music. It's even destroying the type of music that we make. Because a lot of artists, they just want a TikTok song. They just want those like 10, 15 seconds, what's it called? And that's it. It's like, and that's all. And we need to move past that so that the music has longevity and can actually stand the test of time. Especially because now people who are not Africans are also doing Afrobeats. It's just a matter of time before like you see other people doing it. What are you going to do? You're not going to beat them. Chris Brown won a Grammy for Afrobeats, and Chris Brown is Chris Brown. Yes, we've adopted him. He's rude to me to us, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? So we definitely need to be thinking in this way, and I'm really happy that you have mentioned that.
Can I add to that?
Yes, please.
I mean, just like both of you have said, you guys are right. I think there's just the need to strike that balance. From a business perspective, sometimes I understand why it almost seems like people stick to the plug and play because, like you mentioned, our revenue is nothing. So even to get the larger, and there's the argument that to be creative, you need money to be creative. Like you need
cash.
You sort of need to be comfortable to even create. But I think Afrobeats we are trying, even though a large number of the music sounds the same, you do have some people that are taking the risk coming out with like R&B albums. When I mean R&B, like R&B, not even Afro R&B, coming out with different sounds that are making the mark. But there just really needs to be the balance between creativity and the budgeting aspect, because at the end of the day, you are in Nigeria, your revenue is abroad, you have like a lot of avenues to make the money as opposed to Nigeria. Look at publishing, for example. Publishing is a very huge source of income. In Nigeria, CMOs were still trying to figure that out. So I think we're closer to striking the balance, hopefully sooner than later, so that our minds can work better.
All right, so we're going to go to the Q&A. If you have any questions, please raise up your hand. There's already a question at the back there. Yes, go ahead. Hi.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Please, can we... Oh, I apologize.
No worries.
I apologize. Okay. And I feel like I'm overriding because I'm, hosting, but no, I'm not. I apologize. But please go ahead with your question.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Folake, and it's so amazing that I'm speaking in this particular panel because it's your people that have used my name all over the place. But thank you. However, I just want to, I don't know if it's a question or a comment. So over the years, and I've been in and around the entertainment space, danced between all of that, back into marketing. So I think I've listened to this particular panel with a bit more attention. And I think why is, we were talking just a moment ago about formulaic approach to making music. And I know that in other parts of the world, there have been complaints. The TikTok comment that was made, like TikTok music, just make it trend, let it trend, was actually raised. Was actually raised in other parts of the world as well, where people are just trying to make music like fast food music. Just jollof music was what Lynx used to call it. So I'm wondering, right, is it really the artists that are now, I think maybe now it might be that artists themselves want to just become big faster. It's like the earlier conversation about influencers. You know, they just want to make money, and then before you know it, they're just making all kinds of content. And I think it's the same thing with music, in that when it comes to music, even movies, to a large extent, it's like everybody's trying to copy everybody's format, and everybody's trying to do it so that they can quickly sell. However, I'm not really entirely sure if I agree that it is the fault of the artists. I think a lot of the time you'll find that the record label or whatever companies behind that brand is also trying to quickly recoup the money that they are spending on those artists. So this is coming from me. I started off in singing, and I've worked with all kinds of people. I like to be in the back. I stay there, I live there, I'm happy there for obvious reasons. I can be here, nobody's chasing me down the road. But in that time, I noticed that some of my favorite artists, people I enjoyed working with, started to sacrifice what I loved them for. There was a particular major rapper type today that came to me when he was going to go from indie to signed, and asked me if I thought it was a good idea. And I asked him, did he think he would be able to be the him I'd always liked? He said the record label assured him that they will allow him to find the balance. And I think that record label, also one of Nigeria's top 2-3 record labels, has kept that promise. But I haven't seen that happen enough, where you find an authentic, genuine, diamond in the rough or whatever, and you allow them to grow in their power. They become Pink. Their first album is pop when they really want to do rock. So is there a way we can find that balance where, at the point where we give the marketing team a brief, they actually have something authentic to work with? Because it brings us back to the marketing problem of, does your brand really have a USP? Are we maybe taking away the USP from the artists by asking them to sell out fast rather than generate and grow a real audience of niche people that love them?
All right, Can I answer that really quickly? I think this conversation is such an interesting conversation, because I think the consumer takes away a lot of the power that they have. Everyone's always, is it the artist or is it the label? No, it's the consumer, right? The data that I get is based on the consumer. If the consumer's not listening, I don't get that data. So when you're saying, an artist changed from this to that, yes, because maybe they realized that they weren't getting the level of consumer that they wanted. There are plenty of artists out there that you probably don't know about, right? Who are touring Asia, touring Japan, touring whatever, because they were very happy with their consumer base of maybe 5,000, where they could sell tickets and do whatever, and they're fine, right? Because they understand that that's what they want. And then there's also an artist that says, no, I want to blow. I want 1 million followers. I want this, I want that. And they will do whatever they need to do to get to that consumer. So one thing that I get very frustrated for, and because I'm also a consumer, I'm not just a label executive, I'm not just a lawyer, I'm also a consumer. So as a consumer, you also have to take responsibility for what we allow to blow. And sometimes as a consumer, we've allowed a lot of nonsense to blow and not taken into account that there's loads of talent. So you as a consumer too, your responsibility is sharing that talent. If you found a diamond in the rough artist, become their super fan, become their cheerleader. And that's all you should really care about, because at the end of the day, these conversations take away the fact that your artist also has a dream to make money, to take care of themselves, take care of their family, and they will do whatever it needs to be done to reach that dream.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
All right, quickly, I want to ask a question, because...
we have 2 more there. Okay.
So the media over the years has played a very huge role in the media industry, in the entertainment industry, right? And then we see new artists who are born, they leverage very much on traditional media, especially back in the day, you can hear me? Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. I'll start again. So. Oh, okay. Sorry, darling. Yeah. But when artists are born, right, we see them leverage on the traditional media, to promote their brand, to promote their music, and they get big. They eventually become superstars. And like she also talked about, how they sell the trenches story, and it sells. But when they eventually become superstars, then like you used Easy as a reference point, talking about him having a global mindset, that mindset shifts. Not just the artist now, but the record label. And now you are totally relegated the traditional media that you used in promoting your music, in becoming that global brand that you've eventually become. So I think it's not fair, to be honest. And now the focus is now on the international media space because, oh yeah, he's become a superstar. Is like what the conversation around Burna Boy now being, how the way he treats his Nigerian, fans, and because we are the consumers. Without us, they're nothing, to be honest. But then let's talk about how the traditional media space has been, how the traditional media has been relegated when it comes to when we need these people to come and tell their stories even after they have become superstars.
All right, thank you. I think Ifeyinwa should answer that. I think because I really want to know the answer to that. And you would also answer that as well because you guys just did 5, no? Yes, you just did 5. And I thought it was very interesting. Yes, you did. I said what I said. But when it comes to giving the exclusive, you have the Omalays, the Davidos, the Wizkids. When I interviewed all of them, he was talking about 2012 footage. I have all the footage, right? And they come here first. You're signing artists, you sign Mayor Kun, you sign all these people, you come to Temi B first. However, now, you go to David Letterman or you go to whoever, Shaniqua, whatever, abroad and give them the exclusive and leave the NTAs and the Beat FMs that you were like, Baba, help me now. You forgot, and there's no Baba again. The Baba has expired. So, what do you say about that?
Baba is forever there. But on a very serious note, I won't say that the traditional media is forgotten. And then when I say traditional, I mean like local Nigerian.
Media, yeah.
It's not forgotten because you still need to come back. Like, you still need to pay homage. You still need to blow to a certain extent. So the artists have not forgotten.
Sorry, can we have...
Can we
eat sandwich later?
Be quiet. Can we
All right.
please maintain some decorum? Thank you.
Go ahead.
So the local PR is not forgotten. It is definitely still there. There's even if you look at data, the guys that blow also have some very huge level of success here. That's because what happens in Nigeria to a very large extent, it determines what happens, globally as well, because our consumers are still here. Diaspora Africa look towards popping here to sort of start working. So it's not forgotten. I think what is happening is they are just expanding. So abroad, there are more avenues. Abroad, there are maybe 500 radio stations as opposed to Nigeria that has 10. So they will do 10 here and then do the...
She made a mistake. It's a comparison. Exactly.
A very rough estimate. I'm just trying to show that abroad there are more avenues to push the music. So that's why it seems like they are only doing abroad, but they're not only doing abroad, they are doing home and abroad. Abroad just has more outlets.
Okay.
But from Chocolate City standpoint, we are still very intentional about growing our local fan base because home is home. Like, I was on tour with one of our artists, Tariq, and I wanted to come home and eat. Like, I wanted rice. So, but that's just to show that the local fan base does still help. Any marketing strategy or any artist, in my opinion, that cuts out the importance of your home being Nigeria, I don't think you're going to have a very long career. You might have a flash in the pan. You might be popping for 2 years, but what happens after 2 years? So that's my take on it.
All right. I know they're dying for us to like round up, and I know that some people still have other questions. So can I beg for an extra no?
So we're still going to have opportunities to talk to our panelists.
Okay, so I guess that's it. I really wanted her to also respond to the question. Can you just quickly respond to the question, and then we'll round up?
No, I agree with all the points that were made. I think what is always going to be very key in these type of things is having a very tight relationship between local marketing and your international marketing, because there's always going to have to be a very good timeline that tells the story, right? So with every release, the local, because even when you were saying traditional media, I was like, oh, what does that mean? Because in my mind, traditional media is print and whatever, something like that. But, there's going to have to be a tight timeline that deals with local, that deals with the story of why this track, right? Because your local people already know you as an act. They already know you. So now the local story is why this track? How have you grown? What are the new things that you're trying to tell us? And then as you see the movement move from local to international, you also see the storytelling move as well. So there needs to be that tight kind of synergy between, yes, they need to be a local rollout. There needs to be at least 2-3 weeks given in that calendar to go to all the local radio stations, the TV stations, the OAPs, the influencers, because that's the groundswell. And then as it moves along, the David Lettermans, for example, should be at a more of a crucial point where, you've created a crescendo where now the story is those people are now hearing what your people on the ground already know. So you can't neglect any, but I do agree the local one has to be the bedrock, because those people are the ones that carry your story, they carry your music, they carry it to the David Lettermans, right? They're the tastemakers that will speak to the David Letterman, so you can't neglect it neither.
Thank you so much, and that's the end of our panel. Thank you.
Please, a big round of applause for our panelists and Temi B. Thank you so much for doing a wonderful job moderating this session. Can they get a group picture? So while we're doing that, please, I've been asked to announce a very big shout out to Chef Gibbs. I see you. Well done.